anything like that.
I'm a very confident front runner. For caddy for 33 years, 145 wins now, and that's the best win I've ever had.
I have no idea what you have.
I don't know. How are we going to count all the shots? I can't keep track.
God damn it. I don't think he's pleased.
Of course I would. That's a particularly stupid question. It's the Irish Open. Of course I want to play at the weekend.
You're welcome along to Golf Weekly. It is the final day of the 153rd Open Championship. And I guess we can call this a watch along. It's 9:30 in the morning. But Shane Lowry's already out on course. Sick, literally. Bogey on the second. Back to 4 over par. The mood is not going to be good. But we are still about 5 hours away from the leaders taking the course, who, as expected, are Haotong Li on 10 under par. And Scotty Scheffler, 14 under par, 4 shots clear of the field. Inevitable was the word that was been thrown around quite a lot last night as he looks for a 4th major title and a first Open Championship. We love you to get involved in our live watch-along/preview pods. We're sort of, we're fully covering the island of Ireland on the show this morning because Fionn Davenport is with us, back in Dublin. He was in Portrush yesterday, but he's back in Dublin now. How are you, Fionn?
Right, Nathan. How's it going?
In Portrush, overlooking the golf course in the finest Airbnb. Rory McIlroy couldn't even book this Airbnb because the Golf Digest golf nerds got in there first. Shane Ryan, how are you?
Yeah, great, Nathan.
And I'm in either Ballymena or Ballymoney. I thought I was staying in Ballymoney, which is about 10 minutes from Portrush. But as I Google mapped it as I left the parade in my wake last night, as I left Portrush at about 8:30, turned out I was staying in Ballymena, which is about 45 minutes away from Portrush. So here I am. And then I rocked in at 10 o'clock last night. It was very busy, very busy. And the very nice lady who owns the hotel said, "You have got 2 weddings on today. 2 weddings." I was like, "Oh, dear God." But actually, I'm sort of slightly away from that. So I've had a very restful night's sleep. And as I went to bed last night, Shane, I was watching a lot of the coverage of the Open, and all of it started with Rory McIlroy roars into contention at the Open Championship. And I left yesterday thinking, well, this is done. We just need to think about how we talk about Scotty Scheffler now. The fact he can come over here with no links experience, just rock up, hit the ball as high as he wants, and win an Open Championship at Portrush. Am I sleeping on the real story that we could be about to witness maybe even a greater day of golf than the Masters, where Rory comes from 6 shots back in his home country to win the Open Championship? And that's got me up this morning, the possibility that this might be what we're about to witness.
I think he is going to catch Scotty Scheffler. I don't think he's going to catch Haotong Li. I think this is what we're looking at. No, you know what? Look, there have been bigger comebacks. We saw one just a couple of years ago. Justin Thomas was 7 back of the great Mito Pereira and came back and won the PGA at Southern Hills. So this is possible. And Scotty Scheffler is no Mito Pereira. So, it could happen. Now, I mean, I think, being sincere, bits aside, Rory had it right yesterday when he said if he could go out, he's got to go out early and really, really unleash some fireworks. And if he does, though, I mean, this is going to be an environment that is going to be so pro Rory. I'm not saying it'll be exactly like a Ryder Cup, but it'll be along those lines. If he can go just kind of put that out there, maybe get in Scheffler's head a little bit. Yeah, I mean, what if he shoots a 64? You can definitely you can talk yourself into Scheffler shooting a 70. Personally, I kind of think Scheffler's maximum is about a 68 on this course, but no, I mean, you can see it. You can see, especially if Scheffler were to go out of bounds, there's ways you can talk yourself into it, but it all starts with Rory, being at least 2 under on those first 2 holes, something like that, dropping a big putt. It's got to be immediate. Anything like, he started with 6 straight pars, it's over. You know what I mean? That's kind of where I'm at on this one.
We'll get into then what we think might happen. Let's sort of chat about our experiences of yesterday and what we saw and what we felt. And Fionn, we met up on the third tee, following Shane Lowry. I was going to say Shane Ryan, Shane Lowry and John Ram. And I'd followed them from the first, and Shane had given himself a good birdie opportunity at the first and just lipped out, so he parred that. And then the second, he had a brilliant drive straight down the middle and right in the middle of the fairway. takes out the 3-wood, pulls it left. Oof. You were wondering, like, would the sparks result in fireworks between these two? Or was this going to be they're both walking off 18, arm in arm, sort of like McIlroy and Spieth that time at the Masters of, oh, Jesus, neither of us really had it today. And it was clear from the second hole that that was going to be the case. He ended up ending up in a thick bush on the side of the left-hand side of the second, had to take a drop, went way out to the next fairway, hit this brilliant little chip in to about a foot, and then it spun back off the hole, and he did really well, Shane, to get bogey. But we were walking around, we sort of, it felt very flat, and then in hindsight, it turned out to be very flat because obviously Shane Lowry was ill yesterday. What was from being there
exactly
the day yesterday?
I thought, obviously, clearly he wasn't feeling well. He never caught fire. He birdied 10 and 13, and it was like, okay. And then had that horrible triple on 14. And that was that. You know, it was like he's now here just to kind of finish out the week. And, you know, I'm assuming he'll go out I know he bogeyed the second just now, but I just go out and put a bit of a shine on what was a fairly kind of average week for him, I'd say. I guess Shane is the kind of player who needs vibe to really catch, to feel it, and I think he was frustrated on Thursday. It's been a bit of a look. The crowds adore him. We were watching everything he did, like, you know, make a fairway, make a green in regulation. The noise is insane, you know. So, like, I'm sure that helps, but what otherwise is a fairly kind of flat week for him.
You mentioned the Ryder Cup there, Shane, and I was thinking a lot about Ryder Cup style crowds yesterday evening following Rory, particularly 16, 17, 18, where we got the full-on Rory experience. So he steps up on Calamity and goes way right, and he's in the shit, and he hits this brilliant recovery shot, and he escapes with par. Everyone will have probably seen the photos of what happened on 17 again. We goes way right off the tee. The 17th is this brilliant hole, sort of straight downhill at the end, and the 17th green meets the 13th green. And I don't think anyone actually got a good shot of it, but as McIlroy's walking onto 17 green, Scheffler's walking onto 13 green, and they're sort of 50 feet away from each other, not quite staring it out. I don't even know if there was a polite "how are you," but McIlroy manages to get up and down on 17 as well, and then just can't get the birdie on 18. And like the wildness of his round yesterday, in a way, it feels like he needs something like that again. But I don't think I've ever been at a golf tournament. Even 2019 was just fun on the Saturday when Shane was shooting 63, and everybody has a love of Shane. But yesterday, this was Rory, Rory, Rory the entire way around, and nobody else mattered at all.
Yeah, I was on 12 when he hit the eagle, and it was, the people who, I wasn't with him for the first few holes when he was lighting it up, but people who were said the crowds were unbelievable, and that was certainly the case on 12. That was a cool moment to see. It was kind of like goosebumps, watching it happen. And again, today, Scheffler's going to be in the fairway, right? Watching what happens on the green when Rory's there. And so I think that's, he's ideally placed for some magic to happen. But yeah, the crowds are phenomenal. Like you said, they were phenomenal for Lowry yesterday. I was kind of around him in the beginning and watched him a little bit. Even when he finished out, they were great. Which is nice because Lowry keeps getting so unlucky to be at courses where if you hit it 30 yards offline, you end up in trouble. So it's just like one piece of bad luck after another for him, and you really feel for him. But he handles it well. But they really appreciate
your sarcasm is coming across well here, Shane.
Thank you. Good. Yeah. I do think it's so neat to see. There's just such total support for the Irish players. And again, that's kind of unique from what we see. You wouldn't see that in America, really. There's just so many American players. But they love him here. They support him. It seems like an incredibly, people, it's kind of a cliche to say this, but it does seem like an incredibly knowledgeable crowd for a big tournament like this. And, you still do get the people shouting annoying things off the tee. I always assume they're just Americans over from traveling, but by and large, the fans seem like they really know what they're doing. Even when you pick up little snippets of conversation between a father and a son, it seems like they're kind of explaining some cool little aspect. I just thought the environment is incredible. I mean, every day I wake up here and we walk down and we get to a moment where we overlook this just gorgeous piece of land with the ocean in the background. I just think it's a magical place in a lot of ways, and it's cool. You know, from a historical angle, it's so cool they brought it back here. It's a really good thing that they did.
Can I just add one thing to what Shane said, and I totally agree with him. Like on 12 is a really good example of. Now, I think a lot of that. The Irish fan is the most knowledgeable golf fan in the world. Is a little overdone, but they do know their onions. Like it's weird because Rory played that hole, like he overhit the approach slightly. So the putt that he had was a 100% 3-putt. Like absolutely had all the markings of a 3-putt, and he had to drop it dead weight because anything past the hole and it would gone down, and then you're in big trouble. So there was a sense of oh shit, like from where Rory was on the 12th green, this was to get it down in 2 was going to be really well played to make the birdie. But instead, to drop it for the eagle, there was a sense of, and particularly because he just bogeyed 11, you know, so there was a sense of like, okay, now we're back in business. The Rory train is back on the tracks, and I think that encapsulated the day really, really well, I thought. And yeah, I agree. I thought the Rory roar was you could hear it everywhere, no matter where you were. You could hear like these mad. You know, because the property is, I mean, it's spread out and there's a lot of it. But like it is a cauldron, and it's, you know, and I'm with Shane. To me, this is the best links course in the world, but that's me, just in my opinion.
It's got to be. I mean, it's just got to be. I think, you know, there is recency bias because you go to other places and you think the same thing, but it is just, you know, looking over it, walking through it, everything about it, it's just phenomenal.
Yeah.
Just to counter that in a way, is it providing a true links test this week? If Scotty Scheffler goes on to win, it doesn't feel like we're going to be talking about the craftsmanship and the shot making ability of Scheffler in the links sense, that he's running low shots into the greens, that he's doing things that he would only do in this part of the world. It seems as though Scheffler has approached this, and he sort of teed us up for this on Tuesday when he was in for his press conference, that he's just going to play his game. He's going to hit it high. He's going to try and stop it as close to the pin as he possibly can. And he was the one who first mentioned it being very lush out there, that was a lot greener. He was been asked, as they all were, what's the difference between Scottish links and Irish links? And he was like, I don't really know. This just looks to be a bit greener. And maybe there's more dunes in Ireland than there is in Scotland, where you have a course like Troon, which is pure flat, whereas here you have a lot of dunes. But it does seem as though he hasn't really had to alter his game to excel around this brilliant links course.
No, that's a good point. It is without the wind and rain, but the same thing is true for a lot of these open road courses. Without the wind and the rain, this winning score is going to be close to 20 under. We saw it at St. Andrews. We've seen it everywhere. And you know, the way Scotty scrambled yesterday, you give him a ton of credit for not making any bogeys on the back, because he wasn't his usual precise self. People paint this picture of him of fairways and greens, boring golfer. It's like, no, he's got a little Sevy in him when he gets in trouble constantly, but a little bit of that owes to the course. And one take I've heard, you know, my colleague Joel Beal said it. I think I may have read it in Kyle Porter's newsletter last night that I agree with a little bit at least, is if you want him to lose, he better go OB on 1, because there's not many holes out here where you can make a big number. There's really not much room to screw up. If you play smart. Well, you could be Bryson DeChambeau and take 3 hacks at a ball, but you know, it's not like Oakmont, right? It's like, even if you get in the rough, things are short enough around here that a good player with good skills around the green will be able to do a lot of damage control. And then, of course, because of the shortness, there's a lot of birdies to be had.
What was it on, like, and to Shane's point, the 2 shots? So on 11, was he left in the knee-high stuff? Like, so I saw it, and then when I got home last night, of course, being the nerd, like at 1 o'clock in the morning, I'm rewatching it just to see what it looks like on TV. That was an unbelievably brilliant shot.
Yeah. It really
to
was.
get out of that shite on 11. The same on 14. Like and you're right. And Sevi is the right way. He has like such soft hands, and the way he can like Shane yesterday on 14 made triple, and he went long into the crap and just struggled to get out and had to take medicine. But like, and look, maybe there's a fraction of luck but like we cannot underestimate those soft hands. His ability to play these unbelievably good shots, like the like even Radar was saying is that he's taken such a wide stance on 11 just to make sure that he can get underneath the ball, like just get down and underneath and just like feather it up into the air. And like it's shots like that, like to me is like he's just outrageous. It's actually.
Yeah, and I just would add to that, I think there is an element that is so important of how discouraging it is to his opponents. And, you wonder about that because golf, you're not necessarily out there seeing what everybody's doing. But Rory, when he came in, we only got 5 questions with him. But one of the first things he mentioned was, Scotty looked like he could have made bogey there on 14 and he didn't. And it's, he is at his best so good and so threatening to birdie everyone and so consistent that when you do see him get in patches of trouble and he comes out with a bogey, he comes out with a par and he won't even make bogey, when in your head you're like, maybe he'll give 2 shots back, right? I think there's something so deflating about that because right then, after that happens, you gain no ground and it's back to the relentless march, right? It's back to the Fiona's a history guy, like William Tecumseh Sherman, just bleeding the land dry, bleeding
the inevitable march to the sea.
Yeah, exactly.
But like, the other thing to bear in mind, of course, is that like on both 11 and 14, he made like 8-9 foot par saves. Okay, so now he's number 1 in putting. For a guy who can't putt on fescue, all of a sudden, hey, guess what? Scotty learned to putt. Like he's number 1 in putting. That's unbelievable.
Well, not even on fescue. Like last week, he was absolutely atrocious on the greens in Scotland. Like it had to be a massive concern for him. He was one of the worst putters in the entire field. Whereas I saw Justin Ray pointing out that on the PGA Tour this season, the percentage for 5 to 10 footers is around 56%. Scotty's 9 out of 10 for 5 to 10 feet so far this week. And at least half of those, I feel, were par putts.
Yeah.
That these were pressure putts. Like the only putt really it felt like he missed yesterday was the putt on the second for birdie. So he had a long eagle putt, right, and he sort of left himself a 5-6 footer and he missed it for birdie and it lipped out and you think, oh, maybe it's just not happening the way that it should have. But again, he got it back together. And the other key stat is that he's just hitting so many greens in regulation, and that was the key on Thursday and Friday as well, where he wasn't driving the ball particularly well. And you're looking at the numbers and you're looking at the coverage, you're thinking, this guy seems to be in a lot of trouble. But he also seems to have a little tiddler par putt on almost every hole. And even watched him on 17 on the side of 17 yesterday. Again, there's a bit of luck involved, and you're going to need a bit of luck on a links course. He goes left off the tee, and he's only probably 3 or 4 feet from going in a massive bush where he's almost certainly going to have to take a drop. And he just drops it in then short of the green, lets it run up. He has 15 feet. He's taken all the risk out of it. He's taken the right-hand bunker out of it. And he just runs it by the right-hand side. And he has a tap in for par as well. So he's given himself probably a 20% chance for birdie, but a 100% chance for par. And his smartness of play is the reason that, as Donald points out in the comments, he's 6-1 on to win today. And we were both in with Rory, and as you say, there wasn't a huge opportunity to get into anything with Rory yesterday. It was 5 questions and he was in and out, but he also spoke to Golf Channel, spoke to Sky Sports. And while all of those news headlines last night were Rory roars into contention, that didn't seem to be his mood, Shane, afterwards. This wasn't a, whoa, I have shot the lights out today. Scotty's going to have to deal with me tomorrow. It was almost a, if it was anybody else, if it was just anybody else.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I wrote, in my piece, 66 looking, before the third round started, that felt like the minimum he had to do to be seriously in contention. And he did it. But the problem is, like, you look at it in the context and you go, God, I think the standard was higher. I think he had to shoot a 64. and that is ridiculous to ask of somebody at a major championship. But today it feels like he does. He kind of has to tie the course record or shoot a 64, and just hope for the best, because you expect to see Scotty. I guess Lowry was 16 under, right, in 2019. Is that right? Yeah, you expect to see Scotty better than that. You expect to see him at 17 or 18 after this is all over. And if he does that, he's uncatchable, even for Rory. Hao Tong Lee shooting a course record would get to 63, or would get to 18 under, and that even feels like it'd be a coin flip whether he beats Scotty on that. So that's kind of where we're at. But again, we said the same thing at the PGA. Don't forget, Scotty got to a point where Jon Rahm was tied with him, or one shot back, or something like that, and it didn't take long. It was on the 9th or 10th hole, and then Scotty stepped up, and Jon Rahm fell back. If that were to happen today, I think you would be looking at a very different scene on the back nine, where Scotty had the support of the crowd, Rahm was neutral at best. If he lets himself slip, I just think things are always a little more complicated than you think. If he were to let himself slip, the energy of that crowd could be the thing that makes the difference.
For me, I think that the Rory train ran out of juice in the last 3 holes. I think going right on Calamity. Look, it was an amazing up and down for par, but Scotty birdied the whole 3 days in a row.
Yeah.
Like, first
Should
of all,
they rename it? If he birdies it today,
that's actually
if it's
unbelievable.
4 in a row,
Yeah.
and he wins an Open Championship at Portrush, I think they should rename it. I don't know.
Well, they renamed the 9th after Darren Clark, so they can absolutely.
But come up with, I don't know what you call it for Scotty, but
so to that point, so Rory made a brilliant up and down, couldn't see the hole, couldn't see the flag on 16, but scrambled for a par. 17 flashed it out right, and again up from the green. Took ages because all of the punters were, the fans were all kind of sitting there for the day, and so they had to clear all the area, and it took a while for him to hit that shot. Again, made a nice par. 18, nice par, but like, realistically, for him to really be in the conversation today, I think he needed 2 birdies on the last 3 holes. But and to Shane's point, absolutely, this is. I mean, it's look, if look, the gamblers know a lot more about this than I. So 6-1 on are fairly kind of prohibitive odds. I don't see anything really moving Scheffler off the lead. I think he might have a stumble, but I think he'll have enough to win it. But nothing's guaranteed. I just think Rory is 2 shots too far back to really kind of make the noise he needs to make. That would be me.
There's also the fact that to get that 66 yesterday, he had to bury 2 very, very long putts.
Absolutely.
And he had to get out of trouble a bunch. So you look at his first 2 scores, 70, 69. That felt like yesterday could have been a 69 easily, 68
For
easily.
sure.
66 was probably the best score he could have shot there. Yeah. So again, I don't know if he's shown the form where you would expect him to go out and shoot that 63 today.
And it was only when I got home, they'd mentioned it on 5 Live. By the way, 5 Live is just a joy. I was driving home yesterday evening. I was listening to the last few holes of Scheffler, and it was Ian Carter. It's just sensational. But like, it was only when I got home did I see the whole thing that happened on the 11th with Rory and that the buried ball. That was
so strange. Wasn't that funny?
That was so mental. Like, he hits a shot and then a second ball just pops up from, the underworld.
Yeah. I thought initially it was the ball he had hit.
Yeah.
And I was like, why is he laughing?
Yeah.
Why is he smiling about this? This has just ruined your tournament. And then they show a ball dropping further up the fairway. And so obviously this, as he said himself, can only really happen on a links course where the rough sort of grows on a lost ball. It's a shame. And some kid ended up with the ball and, stick it up on eBay quick, because trust me, the value is going to be gone within 24 hours of that golf ball. Yeah. It'd be great if somebody had their name on that golf ball so you could identify, or a very specific marker so you could identify whose ball it was from 15 years ago that had been stuck in that exact spot ever since. Shane
has just holed out from the fairway on the 4th.
And he
Ooh.
almost had a hole-in-one on the third as well. He was about, I'd say about a foot from a hole-in-one on the third. So listen, he's hitting the ball well. He's going on holidays next week. Hopefully everybody's through their sickness and their illness in the house for all of that. I was sort of sitting alongside 16 and then right beside where he hit the shot on 17 for Rory. And they were two sensational recovery shots, particularly the one on 16. Everybody was, because he was on the right-hand side where the crowd can't go. Everybody's sort of looking down going, where the hell is he? Where the hell is he? Next thing you see this ball just pop up and stop a foot from the hole. And the one on 17 then to even give himself the birdie opportunity because he's behind the bunker as well. The flag is just slightly to the left, about 3-4 yards on. So, he sort of hung on in there to give him the chance. You feel, I don't know, if you're Rory and you're thinking a game plan and it's out of his control, but you want to be within 3 heading into the back 9. You want to have the deficit heading into the back 9 and hope that the crowd and all of that somehow gets into Scotty's head. None of these things feel like they're realistic in any way around Scotty.
And fan hope, isn't it? It all feels a bit like a home. Like, so watching Scotty yesterday, it's an interesting, and you hear, obviously the comparisons to Tiger, there's a Tiger-esque quality to the way Scotty is dominating fields at the moment. I still think it's not quite the great Tiger Woods, but, it's as close to it as, but there's a weirdness. When Tiger was in his pomp, he walked around and you knew that he gave off this aura of just invincibility. He was the guy. That was it. Scotty Scheffler, and I wonder what you guys thought, because it seemed to me like he walks around, it reminds me of a guy who's gotten up at 3 o'clock in the morning and decided, oh shit, I need milk, and has gone down to the local shop and is just walking around the aisles, picking out stuff, don't mind me, I'm just going about my business here. There's a kind of a weird, it's no less imperious, but it's just a completely different energy. Yeah. It's this, he just looks like, just don't mind me, lads, I'm just going to go about my business. And meanwhile, he's posting 14 under.
I love that description. That's so good. It's so true. It's so true. That's exactly what he looks like. That's going to live in my head, Fiona, I think forever now that you've said that. It is so funny. Yeah, it's hard to describe his energy because people want to use words like boring. I don't find it boring. There are there's such a toughness about him. Yeah. There's such a really strong resilience. I mean, a good example was you described the putt on 2 that he hit a pretty good first putt from a tough spot, and it looked like he hit a pretty good second putt too. And it was lip out doesn't quite describe it. That was one of those putts that's down, right? It's down in the side of the hole and it comes out. But he was just, he said after yesterday, it was just, hit 2 good putts, didn't let it bother me. And I think, he made something like 6 straight pars, and then just boom, in 2 holes, he got 3 shots, right? Eagle birdie. And, it's remarkable how quick he can strike. So on one hand, you've got resilient. On the other hand, you've got very, very tough. He can strike quick and put up big numbers. But throughout it all, as you said, there's this energy that is just it's not boring. It's not flatline. It's certainly not Tiger-esque. It's like a man going about his business. It's picking out beans for his pregnant wife at the supermarket at 4 a.m.
Going about business is the only way of describing this week, because from what I can tell, Shannon, you may have seen otherwise, it doesn't feel like his family are here. I certainly haven't seen his wife. Maybe they are. Maybe they don't. Maybe they don't come in on the earlier days of the week. But he feels and he talks and he acts like a man who's come here for 2 weeks. He's away from the family. He's on business, and he's going to come home with the deal done.
Yeah, exactly. He's close to closing it out. He's got everything in his briefcase. He's not the kind of guy who loses documents, right? He's at a modest hotel.
He's not the guy who's at a Coldplay concert with the head of HR. That's not Scotty.
Exactly. Yeah. No, he doesn't need a fancy hotel. He's at a modest hotel. He just gets up, takes a shower, works out.
That'd be the greatest 18th green of all time. Can you imagine that some guy has his mistress at the golf tournament, some American golfer, unbeknownst to his wife, and the mistress just can't help herself when he wins an 18 and runs on and celebrates and is like, oh, balls. Been caught.
Just like
Scotty,
Dan Hicks being like, "Who's this? We don't know this."
yeah. When Scotty walks up, and look, the crowds recognize his greatness, of course. And look, whilst they might be cheering for Rory, they're certainly not unaware of the presence of Scotty Scheffler. So, he gets his due when he arrives onto the green. It's not like he's in this space. He's not like waving to anybody. He's just going about his business. The other thing as well is that like you speak to any pro golfer and they'll always tell you, oh, what's the thing that amateurs need to do more of? It. He goes, they need to learn to manage the course better. And everyone thinks you just go out and just hit the ball. Even on 11, he went left, but left was the side to miss. He never, ever, ever, even when it doesn't happen the way he wants it, he still misses on the right side to miss. It's his course management is second to none. And that's Tiger levels of greatness. Because Tiger Woods, there's a sense now that it's been a number of years since the very, very, the electricity of Tiger at his very, very best. But Shane, or as you both know, what made Tiger the dominant golfer of his age and perhaps of any age is the fact that he course managed better than anybody else. Like he hit the shot that needed to be hit. And when it missed on the right side. And Scotty Scheffler is exactly the same. And there's, for me, is the comparison between Scotty and Tiger.
No, I totally agree with you on it. I think if you looked at the mechanisms of how it happens, it would be pretty similar to Tiger Woods. I think what happens is that there are personal aesthetics that come into play of how we judge all this stuff. Tiger was this slim, he wore bright colors. There was something electric about him. And he's handsome. But it's kind of funny because Scotty's handsome in his way too, but in a different way.
Scotty in person is a more impressive.
He's a very
impressive TV.
Yeah.
Well, he looks a lot younger than he does on television. But you realize he's still a young guy,
But Rory, I would say, has that same explosive quality as Tiger, where you watch him and there's something, and they can do their big celebrations. Scotty is like, the way I think of Scotty is just a classic American jock, where he's big, he is kind of a steady guy. His personality is it's nice, you like him, and he's not dumb or anything like that. But he is just built like a linebacker. He's a natural athlete, and to your point, Fionn, he's doing the same things as Tiger was doing. It's not that different. Maybe Tiger was a better putter, but it's otherwise the ingredients are the same. It's just that he's not giving off this electricity. What he's giving off, I just keep thinking of Sherman. I just keep thinking of the General Sherman. He's giving off the
inevitability of it.
Exactly, that's it. The sense of that this is an unconquerable force who's going to pursue you to the death, burn everything in his path, and you just can't escape him. You just can't escape the gravity of the guy.
When anybody, and look, and you can see it with 99% of players, when they're playing well, you can see it in their body. Like Matt Fitzpatrick plays faster because that's just his pace. When things are going, Rory walks with his chest out more.
Bouncing a step.
You can, there's a step change literally in how, and it's not like you might mentally be kind of staying in the zone. Scotty Scheffler, like you have no idea. You watch him walk, you have no idea whether he's triple bogeyed the hole or just eagled it. You have no idea. And nothing ever seems to change. Like, and of course he expresses frustration. Like, he misses a putt, he misreads it, or the shot didn't happen. Like sometimes he expresses bemusement, but he quickly goes back into this loping walk, which, and to your point, Shane, is that people can say, okay, that's boring because the inevitability of it is boring, but it's boring in the way that every golfer that's ever lived desperately wants to be boring.
And there's something natural about it, right? I don't think he's making conscious decisions to behave this way. No. I think it's something he's learned. He's got a little bit of Federer in him where, he talks about in young days, very, very angry and kind of an emotional head case on the course, which is true for a lot of these guys, but has segued into this, sang-froid of just cannot be perturbed, totally imperturbable.
Well, look at 11 on Friday, where himself and Shane hit almost the same shot. And that's where Shane has the F this place. And Scotty sort of starts on it. He's like, and just stops himself. And clearly has done a lot of work on this anger management of this isn't going to do me any good. by just roaring to the heavens and gives a sort of quarter-ass roar and then reins it in and keeps his anger within and then is over it. And then is over it quickly. So he did talk about that in the press conference. It was obviously overshadowed by all of the, what's the point of all of this conversation of how hot he used run when he was a kid and how much work he's done to manage that and to not outwardly express it. And was Tom Watson exciting when Tom Watson was winning tournaments in the 70s?
The clips of him look kind of fun, right? The chip-ins and the kind of he'd wear the plaid bell-bottom pants and things like that. A little bit, probably.
Yeah.
Nicholas wasn't that exciting.
That's what I'm just wondering. Like, it's part of Scotty's issue for maybe, and maybe we're just talking about the casual sports fan rather than the golf nerd in terms of what we're looking for from Scotty Scheffler, that he's just so dominant. He hasn't really had too many moments where he's needed that clutch putt, where he's needed that chip in at the crucial time to separate him from the field, because he just builds it over the course of 4 days. And that may well be what we see today. And listen, if this turns out that Rory somehow were to come back, we would all take that as our first choice, I think, right now, as one of the greatest days in the history of the Open Championship. But if Scotty wins this by 7 or 8, I think in 20 years' time, you're going to go, wow. Like, remember that week in Portrush where Scotty Scheffler produced one of the greatest major championship performances we've ever seen, and that over time maybe there'll be a greater appreciation for what this guy is doing. We're getting a lot of comments in. Let's get to some of them. Mark McDonough's wondering, on hole 5, when the call the group from the tee through, are they allowed mark another player's ball if it ends up in the way? Have they been calling other groups through from the 5th tee?
I haven't seen that personally, but
neither have I, because I think that's one of the...
It could easily have escaped me. I haven't seen it.
I've been out there a couple of times and I haven't seen it. And again, maybe it just missed it. But I thought that was also one of the reasons being given for the slow play, was that 5 was drivable. And it meant that everybody was obviously having to wait until the tee.
I don't think, if anything, I don't think they're doing it on the weekend, Nathan. I think, it was a huge. There would be 4 or 5 people on the tee, 4 or 5 groups on the tee. They were saying Thursday and Friday, but yesterday the pace was just perfect. I mean, it was really fast.
A comment in from MC76. Wrong podcast for you, unfortunately. MC76. Box under 20 win rugby championship. Ireland finished 9th. Not relevant and
absolutely
not overly caring. Arrow, you guys saw Lowry's hole out just now. I just watched it there. I think he was about 138 yards. He obviously had to chip out onto the fairway on the 4th hole. So back-to-back birdies for Lowry, and the mood will be slightly better than it was when we started this podcast. What the hell? Potty Scotty. Donald says we should call it Scotty's Big Hole, the 16th, if they're really
that's clever.
Tournament's over. Scheffler is the best golfer in the world by a lot. Donald, half of the year's major final days have been a washout thanks to Scotty's dominance. That's sort of the point we're making, I guess, that the day we'll all remember was Rory at the Masters, while Scotty's just sort of snuck in there and come away with 2 more. Scheffler helped mentally by his faith. Being great at golf isn't the end for all of them. God, he's going to be asked a lot of questions about that tonight in the press conference. I feel like this could be an hour-long press conference with Scotty, as everyone just keeps pushing him on, are you fulfilled? Does this matter? Are you going to win the FedEx Cup?
Well, that was the thing we were talking about, Nathan, on Twitter. I think Jason Sobel said to me, he said, you have to ask this guy the minute, if he wins, the first question has to be, do you think you'd be able to parlay this into a good showing at Memphis? Because that was his comment at the presser. Was like,
no matter what I do.
Yeah. So I think I will generally do that. I'll ask a legit question first, but then I have to ask the follow up. Do you think you can take this momentum to Memphis?
Yeah, it's a funny one. It's like, and I saw there's a comment about, that the reaction to Scotty's comments is OTT, because all he's saying is that there's more to life than golf. Well, we all know that, but that's not the point.
Yeah.
And it's that, that Don Draper quote, what is happiness? Is that thing you feel 2 minutes before you need more happiness, But to be the very best in the world at whatever pursuit it is, you have to devote yourself single-mindedly to that. And for the most part, and in a lot of sport and indeed other endeavors, you do that to the exclusion of so many other things that most people accept to be the things that make up a well-rounded life. And so Scotty I won't say he's in a unique position, because I'm sure lots of people can but there's something quite special about someone who is grappling with both being the very, very best at what he does, and also recognizing is that, yes, I am absolutely devoted to doing that thing that I need to do to have this extraordinary career, while at the same time, I can't ignore the fact that, like, this is but one part of a wider life. And I think that that's, by definition, is one of the most interesting things I've ever heard a sportsman say.
No, I totally agree with you.
Yeah. It's such a fascinating, and to see someone grapple is probably, but to see someone kind of really kind of dwell on these things, it's not something like, I don't remember the last time I heard anybody say that who's in that position. Like,
that's the key, isn't it, Fionn? That's the bit.
That's the key.
Like, Donald's right. Is there anything really so revelatory?
No, but there isn't, of course. But like,
people, even in everyday life, I think people are always grasping for something greater, and Scotty has it. And I can't think of any other player who would have, even within golfing terms, sat in that room, and if they'd said that you believe them. Like,
but it's
I believe Scotty when he says that actually by Wednesday he'll be back with his family in Dallas, and he'll have sort of moved on in his head to what's next. Like, the celebrations will be over, and he'll be okay with that. Whereas obviously Rory is the obvious comparison, but even if Xander Schauffele had sat there and said, like, part of you'd be, this guy giving up. Like, the question about entitlement that almost came up around Scheffler's press conference of, well, it's easy to say that when you've got 100 million quid in the bank and you've had all of the success. I think from anyone else, it would have come across as somewhat entitled of, this doesn't really matter all that much. Whereas with Scotty, everything we've seen of his personality over the last 4 or 5 years makes you think, yeah, actually, that is how he goes about his life.
But he also wasn't saying that he doesn't appreciate the net benefit of what being very good at golf has given him. That's not what he's saying. And it's also worth pointing out is that when you hear someone goes, there's a lot more to life, I think, family is important, but your health is your wealth. When people talk like that, usually they're doing it to console themselves in some way or another. It's just like, I know in my life is that, like, when things don't go my way, or I don't, like, a kind of a trigger consolation is to go, you know what, there's a lot more to life than that thing I really want but didn't get. Whereas Scotty is in a position of, like, that thing he really wants, he has. And nobody is taking it off him for the time being. But at the same time, he's in that space. And I'm going to, and this is a complete punt because I don't know, I'm going to say that Rory McIlroy winning the Grand Slam, I would be fascinated to hear whether the joy he felt afterwards matched the joy he thought he would feel afterwards.
Well, that's the interesting part of the context, is if you apply what he said to Rory and what Rory has gone through over the past 10 or 12 weeks, and that bit of, by Wednesday, the world is moving on again. And we'll talk about that night forevermore, but he's maybe not fully appreciating that when he has to wake up on the Wednesday morning and bring his daughter to school and go and do the shopping. If Rory McIlroy does the shopping, I don't know. He's not Scotty Scheffler getting up at 3 a.m. to go buy the milk. That's for sure. And as you say, it wasn't this life-altering moment that he had expected it to be, that life just goes on.
Yeah.
So, and I think Rory is and maybe today, depending on how things going, when somebody has more time with Rory, I think it's absolutely going to be a talking point from. Maybe it's one of the reasons why he's only doing 5 questions after every round this week.
Yeah, I mean,
you can't ask me about Scotty's quote.
You Tiger Woods in the pomp, and like it's in the book, isn't it? It says, who refused to go out for a celebratory dinner after winning a major because that's just the way it goes. Like, we win these things and we expect them, we move on. Like, I mean, that's robotic. That's the Terminator. that's like what I've done is I've shut off human emotion,
Yeah.
because
But Tiger's a pretty good example, and I think Rory might be on that same spectrum where, the other thing I wanted to say is just about Scotty, whether you like his message or you don't, whether you think it's entitled or not, he's being honest. And I think that is so admirable, especially for a guy who, people accuse him, he doesn't say anything, he's boring or whatever. He's being very, very honest, but I also think it fortifies him for a nice life, going forward. I mean, look how many famous people who accomplish all these dreams and become so fabulously wealthy just crash and burn when it's over, or sometimes before it's over, sometimes while it's happening. And Tiger's a good example. And Rory, with his personal life stuff, we don't want to get too much into speculating, but it seems a little bit unstable, sort of. And these are life lessons of, you can't just have the one great thing. That's awesome. I'm not somebody who's like, oh, money doesn't buy happiness. Money can certainly buy contentment and safety, and that
solves a shit ton of problems.
All the shit tons of problems, exactly. but it's not going to be the only thing, and it's not going to insulate you from feeling depressed or feeling like your life isn't fulfilling or all that stuff. And I just think, like, man, if you were going to be somebody who has hundreds of millions of dollars, I would want to be Scotty Scheffler. This is the kind of mindset I would want to have. That's the life I would want to have, and that's where I think I'd have the best chance to be a happy man when I'm 70 years old or whatever the case may be. So it's like, these are kind of things where I think people could learn a lot from Scotty. I mean, I'm sure you guys are the same as me. You've had successes in limited ways in life. I say limited because, we're not, winning the Masters like Scotty is, but successes that have been very, very important to us, or jobs you've gotten, or things like that. I completely agree with him. I think it never feels like you think it would feel. And I just think it's like cool that somebody can say that honestly, even at the highest level, because we're all experiencing that in life, I think, to some degree.
Donald asks, do you lads ever stop banging on about Tiger? I don't remember golf commentators in the 90s constantly yakking about Jack Nicklaus. Anyone under 25 won't have any memory of peak Tiger. Well, Donald, I don't know if you know the golf audience, but there's not many of them under 25. So,
and also, sorry,
and they're all watching Barstool. They're watching Barstool. They're not
exactly. I'm sorry. When Tiger Woods was doing the Tiger Slam, were all the commentators not talking about Jack Nicklaus?
Yeah. Here's another thing is that, like, when Tiger Woods shows up on one leg, it's the top story in the golf press. So, and also I'm going to say in the 90s, people still talked about Jack Nicklaus. So, yeah.
I will say there's probably a point there that Tiger loomed so large and was such an enormous figure. People didn't talk about Jack Nicklaus the way they talk about Tiger Woods now. So I think he's right that there is probably, for people our age who lived through it and saw it, there are going to be people younger being like, get over it. Like, I don't know who this guy is, right? Like, imagine, I'm trying to think of an equivalent of, we've all heard our parents talk about some athlete that you're like, look, I never saw him play. I just know these people currently are more interesting to me because I know them. So we probably will have to adjust to that as we, Tiger's still recent enough that he kind of is foremost of, but in 10 years, we probably should cool it a little bit with Tiger.
Do you think in the era of Steph Curry and LeBron, et cetera, that Michael Jordan, long since retired, is less relevant now, a kind of a looming shadow over modern basketball? I don't think,
I would say yes. I think if you look at the beginning of LeBron's career, the comparisons to Jordan were constant. I don't really hear them much anymore.
I mean is that, like, if Michael Jordan comes up in a conversation, he's still relevant, as in, like, obviously he's not, it's now the stars of today. You know the point. I'm saying is that Michael Jordan, I think, has a similar type of, he's a similar type role in the conversation. Like, a retired great, but there's still an aura there that I would say Tiger has.
I think you're right. I think that, but it's a good example, illustrative example, Fionn, of, Jordan was done in 98. Tiger was done 5 years later. Tiger is in a position now, the way we talk about him, that Jordan was probably 5 to 10 years ago. I just think even with the Jordan thing, that's diminishing. And I think the Tiger thing will keep diminishing with time.
I guess the one difference, and maybe this is where there's an opportunity for Scotty, is that after Tiger came LeBron, came Kobe Bryant, came Steph Curry, came these absolute superstars who obviously didn't have quite the same transformational impact because Jordan came at a time of increased TV exposure and things you can never replicate. Whereas we haven't had anyone who moves the dial the way Tiger does. Rory, we thought might be that guy and still can be in ways, but is on 5 major titles. That actually, if Scotty in 10 years' time is on 14 majors, like he is the historical comparison for the generation to come after.
There's also the YouTube phenomenon is that young people who never saw these players in their pomp, just look on YouTube and you can find gazillions of footage.
Tiger didn't come from white country club membership. He broke barriers in golf as well as records. Tiger's the standard to which a new dominant player will be measured. Yeah. The other thing is that there probably will never be a Tiger because he brought golf from here to here in a way that nobody else ever has in the history of the game. Maybe even surpassing, say, what Arnold Palmer might have done in the 60s and 70s. So, yeah, we're going to be talking about Tiger for a little while. Here, let's run through. There are other players in this tournament I see on the leaderboard in front of me. So half 2, Scotty Scheffler is out. So it should be done in sort of 6:30, 7 sort of time. Hao Tung Lee is going to be playing alongside him, who, let's be honest, has sort of come from nowhere this year. Hadn't played very many majors in recent times. Hadn't played an Open Championship since 2022. Finished 3rd back in 2017. Did win in Qatar earlier this year, but really, as he says himself in his press conference yesterday, he's playing for 2nd.
That was so funny. Did you see? I don't know if you guys saw this. I actually made it my display name for the Zoom, but I don't think it shows up. Hao Tung Lee, someone went on his Wikipedia page and changed his nickname to the Scheffler Slayer, which it's no longer there, but it was there for a brief period last night. And it was, I just laughed out loud when I saw it because there's something about his personality that's so funny. He just yesterday when he spoke, he's almost like happy-go-lucky in a weird way. But he just seems like the exact opposite of the guy that's going to go out and beat Scotty Scheffler today. So we'll see. I mean, but he's been playing phenomenal golf, and we've never had a Chinese Grand Slam champion. It would be quite interesting to see the cultural impact of a guy like Hao Tung Lee winning this.
Do you know what keep her lit means, Shane?
Keep your lid?
Keep her lit. Keep her lit.
I don't think so, no.
You didn't hear it yesterday. When I was sitting on 17 waiting for Scotty to come through, and Hao Tung Lee had gone through with Brian Harman just before him, all you could hear were these very strong northern accents going, keep her lit, keep her lit, Lee, keep her lit, Lee. And you could tell, like, what? Keep her lit, Lee. And then the same thing to Brian Harman, because it can mean both things. It can mean things are going well, so keep them going well, or things aren't going so well, and just try and stick with it.
Okay, okay.
So you're going to hear a lot of keep her lit.
Okay, sounds good.
I followed Lee Westwood for ages yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
And, had a pretty kind of indifferent front 9 and then shot a 29 in the back 9. So become only the 2nd player ever in the Open ever to shoot below 30 on the back 9 of an Open Championship. And I must say, watching Lee Westwood is a balm for the soul. He's unbelievable. Obviously he's not going to win, but he's a touch of class. He's still just, and because he has his now wife, maybe? Is it his wife now? Yeah, current his wife on the bag. But it's weird. So I'm watching it and I'm going, she carries the clubs, but he does everything else. He's doing the wind. He walks forward to the tee and plucks the grass. And it's like he has his best friend on the bag and the two of them are just walking around having a bit of a laugh. But it just so happens with like this extraordinarily good golfer. It was kind of brilliant. And then the other one that I wanted to mention that I noted was I was watching Justin Rose, and who's he playing? Was he playing with Sam Burns? I can't remember. Was it Sam Burns?
No, he wasn't. I saw Sam Burns.
Or was it Ludwig Oberg?
Might have been Ludwig.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. I was watching Justin Rose. And at one point, as he came down, he was on the 12th, and there's walkways, surrounding the 12th green. And there was 4 lads, northern lads, in what can best be and politely described as an advanced state of inebriation, who were talking amongst themselves. But you know that when you're drunk, you don't really modulate your pitch at all. Yeah. And they were like, I'm like this. So at one point, Justin Rose's caddy angrily leans over and goes, hey, shh, like this. And so then the boys thought, because they were absolutely shit-faced, the boys started doing this, then going, oh, sorry, shh. And the shh was louder than the talk. It was quite the moment. And I have to say, I was watching Justin Rose not get engaged with any of this, stepped away from the ball and waited for the incident to pass. But it took like a minute and a half for these guys to actually shut up.
Justin nearly killed about 3 people during his round yesterday.
Oh my God, that shank was incredible.
The most fearful look I've ever seen in a golfer's face.
Yeah.
He just like put his hand up too, like.
So can anyone make a case for Hao Tung Lee?
No.
Tough stuff.
I mean, do you see a Cam Smith in? Is it 22? Is it Cam Smith?
Yeah,
coming
with a
from
comment on
APAC?
that, wondering if Scotty does a Rory at St Andrews almost and thinks all I need to do is power myself around here, and somebody comes on a birdie rush, and suddenly he's standing on 16 and he's needing to hit a shot. And he's like, "Whoa, what just happened? Where'd that guy go?"
Yeah.
I think Hao Tong, I haven't seen him play that well under pressure. It just feels like he's going to blow up. I don't know why. I feel like a 74 from him coming today.
Matt Fitzpatrick is going to be playing alongside Rory in the penultimate group at 220. Fitzpatrick couldn't hole anything yesterday, and as he was more than happy to point out when we were talking to him afterwards, the irony that it's his putting coach, Phil Kenyon, who has transformed Scotty's putting. And thanks for that, Phil, was what he was saying. And I heard, actually, just as I was walking in to the press conference room, Matt Fitzpatrick's caddy was coming out, and I presume talking to his manager, and was like, "Have you been in touch with Phil already?" So it was I didn't get Phil to the course as quickly as possible. Saw Phil Kenyon on TV, was with Jason McAteer, I think, sitting in the stand watching the golf yesterday. So listen, Matt Fitzpatrick, we sort of felt wouldn't go away, but then he did go away. And maybe on days like this, you sort of revert to where your golf has been. And while Matt Fitzpatrick is showing a revival, there's a lot of average golf there over the last 18 months as well. But there's a lot of other story. Like, this is a big day for Matt Fitzpatrick, because you feel if he finishes top 3, he's going to be in that Ryder Cup team. And that Ryder Cup team is suddenly looking almost set. Unlike, of course, the shambolic American team, who they don't even know who their captain is going to be, and Chris Gotterup, who Shane Ryan, Ryder Cup expert, couldn't even pick out from a lineup 2 weeks ago, is now going to be on this Ryder Cup team, it seems, because he's 8 under par after winning in Scotland last week. He's in a tie for 4th at the moment. This is, wow. This guy has sort of come from absolutely nowhere, and he got a lot of game, Shane. Did you know much about Chris Gotterup before he went and won in Scotland?
No, I knew nothing about Chris Gotterup before. I asked him yesterday after his round. I said, a month ago, nobody would have been talking about you for the Ryder Cup team, and now, you at least are in there with a shot because you've been, the hottest player, other than Scotty, obviously. And he had nothing to say. It was I might as well never ask the question. But he seems like a nice guy. It just seems like very kind of flat. Yeah, I mean, the golf he's playing is incredible, and I think it's underrated how well he handled Sunday in Scotland. Playing against Rory, playing against all that shows a lot of steel to go and win that tournament. I mean, you would have expected it maybe to drop off. He hasn't had a ton of chances to try it out under that kind of pressure. So, he's a guy that I kind of expect to play well today. He's too far back, I think, just like Rory, to have a real chance, but he's just been, I mean, he is playing really, really exceptional golf and seems to, fit right in with the link style for a kid from New Jersey. So it's pretty cool to watch. It's the Ryder Cup thing is going to be fascinating because it almost feels like one of those complications that you look at, if you're Keegan Bradley or if you're Furyk or whoever, you look at it and you almost take a deep sigh of, oh crap, we gotta take this seriously. And we had our ideas and we had our plans. Are you going to ring
Patrick Cantley and tell him we're bringing Chris Gotterup instead of him?
Yeah,
I love Shane.
What if he
Again,
goes a playoff event? What if he finishes top 5 in all 3 playoff events? I mean, it's like all of a sudden it's like, well, I guess we have to take him on the team, and this was not part of the battle plan.
You don't have a battle plan. You don't even have a captain. So don't be talking about a battle plan, or you don't even know who's going to be making the call, whether it's Keegan Bradley or Jim Furyk.
Yeah.
Hey, come here. I wish I could defend myself.
Shit show at the Fuck Factory. That's the American Ryder Cup team right
Shane,
now. I can't defend myself.
Shane, why is there seem to be a uniform happiness that Brian Harman isn't going to win. So he shot a 73 yesterday. Why is there this sense that like
Brian.
this poor little guy just who's actually, you know, like everyone's like, oh, thank God.
Poor little
I think,
guy.
it's funny because I will say in Brian Harman's defense, I think he's one of the more interesting interviews of any player. I love talking with him. I think he's cool, and I think he's smart. I think he's actually very intelligent. And I know some people don't like the hunting stuff, and that's totally understandable. But I actually don't think that's what's behind this. I think there's just a sense of, you know, if you know, honestly, a part of it is his height. I think people, you know, the whole, there's that stat that in U.S. presidential elections, the tall one,
6 foot.
Yeah, the tall one has won almost all of them too, even with people who are both above 6 feet. I think there's some disrespect to him that way. I think there's a memory of Hoylake where it was kind of unexciting, right? He just kind of pulled away. So not only was it a champion, people that were like, what? Who is this guy? How is he winning? But he dominated. I mean, it's a weird word for him, but he did dominate.
In horrendous conditions.
Yeah, in horrendous conditions, and he was really, really tough on Sunday. Yeah. And I think on Friday there was that moment where people were like, oh, are you kidding me? Are we going to have to relive this again? So I think there's almost a sense of relief. And just people, you know, people disrespect short people more than they should. But I think
as a short person, I can tell you that is absolutely the case. There's a weird
you down as particularly short. You're no Brian Harman.
No, I'm not. But I'm not tall. Like, so, you know, so I'm the shortest one of all my friends. So put it that way. But I think there's an interesting kind of weird bias, right? So like I have a bunch of WhatsApp groups, like golfing friends, and there seems to be like, ugh, what a dull thing. Scotty's just going to walk away with it today, and it's not going to be interesting. However, let's say it was John Rahm. Like all of a sudden it'd be like, oh my God, it's so dominant. It's so this, or when Tiger Woods, nobody ever said, oh my God, in 2000, it was so boring. Tiger won by 15. Yeah. Oh, what an unbelievably dull. It's like nobody said that. So this idea that like, it depends on who's doing the dominating is like Brian Harman stretching away from the field a couple of years ago, all of a sudden just seems so like kind of an anticlimax versus Rory McIlroy. If Rory McIlroy were to do that, win by 9, people would be like, oh my God, that was one of the most electric performances I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's you're happy you're witnessing true greatness deliver rather than somebody it feels have almost a freakish week. Donald says killing animals for sport is not popular with a lot of people. The chip in his shoulder he has about his length on and off the tee is also not endearing. There was a brilliant question though to Brian Harman on Friday when when people ask, what did you shoot? Do you always
grouse?
Do you know that they're asking about your golf score?
Yeah.
I saw.
Now, in fairness, in defense of Brian Harman, my understanding is that Brian Harman, yes, killing animals for sport,
fish back in the river.
No, but also as well is that like I was in Michigan a few years ago, like 6 or 7 years ago, and I spoke to 2 young hunters, and they were at pains to differentiate between sport hunting, as in you eat what you kill and you make sure. And then like assholes like the Trump sons who go and kill lions because trophy hunting, which is nonsense. And they were like going, that is outrageous. That is just like cruel and, whereas it's like, and then of course the inevitable question is, so when was the last time you had a steak? It's like, so be quiet, you know?
Yeah, we had this debate, Fionn. There's a show called Alone in the US where they put these people out in the woods alone. It's a reality show and see who can last the longest. And there's a lot of hunting. They're always hunting, whether it's trying to kill a grouse or whether they're trying to shoot a moose. And we had this debate about whether to let my daughter watch it, who's 7, and she loves it. And my wife was like, we eat meat. What are you going to do? I mean, like, you can't genuinely object to this kind of thing when it's like, this is kind of like part of the culture. And then, of course, in America, where you were in Michigan, which is hunting central. And this
absolutely.
Part of American culture that I know it's difficult to understand when it's not part of the culture, but it's just a different can of worms there. I mean, I grew up with it. And, when I was a little kid, I would go try to shoot birds and squirrels with a BB gun, which, to be fair to me, I succeeded and felt incredibly horrible and have never done it since. So even in our culture, there is something where it can kind of turn the stomach, but I do eat meat, right? I'm like a hypocrite in that sense. But yeah, I think I think that's part of it. Also, we need to mention the waggles with Brian Harmon. This is something that really so that's like a very, really big thing and a totally understandable thing. I did want to say my favorite tweet that I saw on the topic of shooting was somebody said, what does Rory have to shoot tomorrow to win? And somebody replied, Scotty Scheffler.
On that note, I think we should leave it because as much as I'm enjoying this, I've just realized that I'm an hour from the golf course and it's 11:15.
You got to get there. You got to get there, buddy.
I have to actually go and watch this thing.
Come pick me up. I don't feel like walking again.
Do you want? If you want me to pick you up, text me in 40 minutes when I'm driving past.
I'm just kidding. The walk is downhill to the course. It's the way back that kills me. But yeah, that's all good.
I'll give you a lift home later. All right. So we will be back with a review pod. Might try and record that this evening. Gary is over practicing for qualification for the Senior Open, which is on next week at Sunningdale. But I think Gary said he might be around tonight. So we might try and actually get the review pod recorded tonight. We'll see how everyone else is fixed as well. And we'll have loads of analysis throughout the day on the radio show, on Off the Ball. So come on, give us a case here. Give us a case. Anybody seeing anything but Scotty?
Scotty by 4.
Scotty dramatically. I think there's a chance that at one point in this final round, someone's going to be within one shot of the lead. I'm gonna say that's going to happen. Scotty's going to win. Yep. Scotty's going to win, but at some point the deficit will be 1.
I think Scotty's going to birdie the first 2 holes, and he's going to win by 7.
Nice. Okay. So you
All right.
the difference. All right.
Thanks for hopping on very early this morning. The benefit is if you're listening to this as a podcast, you might still be able to get a chance to enjoy it fully before the leaders tee off at 2:30. There's a lot going on in sport in Ireland today, but if you're up in Portrush, you're going to have a cracking day. There's loads of good spots. I particularly like that spot around sort of 12, 13. You can see 17 in the distance.
Awesome.
As well.
Brilliant.
You can see a couple of tee shots. So if you're going, try and get there early. But enjoy the final day of the Open Championship. Shane Ryan, we'll see you in a little while. Fionn Davenport, thank you as ever.
See you guys. Enjoy.
Bye-bye.